welcome to Bachelorette Forecast. We have a jam-packed episode today. We're recapping episodes 5 and 6. We're going to talk about everything that happened, look at what social media followers have been talking about, and take, of course, our fresh look.
And this week's episode, of course, villains and Vikings. We will get
right.
into it. The Bachelorette, where a one-on-one date is as dangerous, perhaps, as doing Viking fights with real swords.
Exactly, and it was proven that is dangerous.
Well, so we know how dangerous that is.
We'll get into that. So let's start the villains part of our episode here.
Let's do this.
Who's the villain?
We started, of course, just last night with this sort of cliffhanger, wondering what would happen with Kenny and Lee from the night before. We've seen this tension bubbling up to the surface over the last couple of weeks. The question basically became, will Rachel realize that Lee is the snake that we all kind of know he is?
Exactly. We all knew that Lee was that little twerp. We knew he was the villain of the season. We knew how awful he was, conniving and rude, and we just wanted Rachel to see who he really was, and this is the time that it happened.
And we also needed to know if Kenny would end up letting this get the better of him. Because we'd seen it in episodes past that Kenny either wasn't able to express himself or he would get too amped up about Lee.
Right.
And we saw this all sort of come to a head last night.
And, Lee flat out lied. Told Rachel that, Kenny has this dark, aggressive side, that he tried to pull him out of a van. None of this ever happened. This is reality TV. If someone was pulling someone out of a van, we would know.
We would see it from 19 different camera angles. And then Lee said, oh, no, that never happened. No, I was just sort of saying about, the mood of the thing. We get it.
Such a liar. So Kenny coming back down to where Lee is, sitting at his little table. He is cracking up because he can't believe how outrageously terrible Lee is for flat out lying.
Also just enjoying the wicker furniture and the whiskey of it all.
He's just hanging out there. It was just outrageous. And Kenny comes out, he's saying he hopes Lee's ready to get swashed away by the tide of realness. That is Kenny. Probably one of my favorite quotes of the episode. And, Rachel, when she meets back up with both of them, she trusts the right guy. She trusts Kenny, and we got to say goodbye to that little twerp, Lee.
In fact, let's take a look at this right now as she said her goodbye, and now she goes with the seemingly victorious Kenny. We'll see if he handles it the right way.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Check it out.
I have to go say goodbye to Lee. This is just an awful situation. And I can't even. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow, bro. Wow. Wow, bro.
You all right?
Don't worry about me. Here's what I'll say with you. I didn't threaten you, didn't get violent.
If she's a Christian woman and she knows you're doing this, that's fine.
Oh my God, shut up for a second.
This is so stupid. I feel stupid. I look stupid. Look at this. You're still giving it attention. This is, I'm so annoyed by this.
Here's what I'll say. Be the you that God intended you to be. Because somewhere inside there, there's a guy that's decent, bro. There's a decent Lee inside there.
What could you possibly be saying?
One day you'll understand. So on, Snake. Oh, my goodness. I can't even believe it.
Kenny fell right into Lee's trap.
I legitimately thought that she was going to take off without it.
I
A
did
producer
too.
is fired right now because that would have been the most epic decision in the world for all of a sudden for the helicopter just to leave without Kenny and Kenny be like, no, I left her.
She was clearly annoyed. Why would he do that? He got the rose. He needs to just put the drama behind him and go with Rachel. But no, she clearly thought it was the stupidest thing she had ever seen, was not happy about it. But at the end, they did spend some time together, and Kenny did actually end up getting the rose and staying. So that brings us to our Vikings part of the episode. Villains and Vikings. Well, we had a very exciting group date.
Yeah, we started off in Oslo, Norway. Then we went to Copenhagen, and that's where we saw the real Viking spirit come out. And that's when we learned that apparently battle can be done on one foot. We learned that swords need to be used. And, of course, we learned that you're not allowed to use hands in any of your wrestling matches.
And we also learned those shields were more dangerous than the swords.
Yo!
So that was kind of scary.
We also learned that we knew Kenny was a good fighter in the ring, but we also learned that Adam spills real blood, that apparently he is human enough to have actual blood come out.
He is, and that left both Kenny and Adam bleeding after this date, so it was very intense. They were both vying for Rachel's heart, and at the end of the group date, well, Peter ended up getting the rose. Yeah. Neither of them did because obviously he's perfect Peter. But one sad part with Kenny, though, he ended up going home after all.
And Kenny really worked so hard to get back into this game, Mel.
Right.
I mean, he had to fight.
We saw him there fighting.
He was on
Rachel.
He was on the brink right there with Rachel, but eventually later that night he said, this is why I am a verbal person. I have to express myself. She ended up buying into it, and then he basically ends up taking himself out of the game just a few hours later.
Right. It was very emotional. I mean, we saw where he was coming from. We saw multiple times him Skyping his daughter, crying while he was Skyping. He's a big guy, but he's an emotional guy.
I can appreciate some male sentiment. I can definitely appreciate the father-daughter relationship. Right. We got the impression that him crying was not unusual at all to that daughter.
It seemed like a usual thing that happened in that family.
It's like, oh, Dad, you're crying again. I cry when you cry. It's
an
Wednesday.
Emotional guy, but yeah, it was a mutual decision for him to leave. It was sad. I felt for Kenny, but I think it was the right decision.
So that was one of the sort of one-on-one interactions. But I think what we learned this week that one-on-one dates with Rachel are dangerous.
They're scary.
She is not afraid of sending you home, and to prove that, we had some truly horrific one-on-one dates this week. So let's go to Emily Shapiro, our social correspondent. Emily, what were you hearing about these truly awful one-on-one date experiences?
Hey guys. All right, well, on Twitter, by far the worst one-on-one date from these 2 episodes was Jack. Do you guys remember Jack? Not from last night, the night before.
It was really bad. He actually said, I want to bring you to Dallas and lock you in a room. I mean, that is just, I would be like, bye.
Jack
Goodbye.
Stone, you and your crazy eyes
Look
are
at
not
his smile.
worthy of either of your 2 great names.
Yeah, people on Twitter were going crazy about his crazy eyes. Now, we have one tweet from Kat Ward. Her tweet really summed up that date. Let's take a look. Kat Ward tweeted, Jack's ideal date is locking Rachel in a house. This is a red flag. Yes. That's a red flag, you guys.
It's terrifying. I mean, no one. I mean, Rachel even said, I don't think I like that very much.
I got a few things to do, and really all you want to do is get me alone in the house and lay on the bed. I think was part of the scenario as well.
I think she sent him home like 4 minutes after that. After that was said.
Yeah, Vinny from JoJo's season of The Bachelor, she also tweeted. She said Rachel would rather be anywhere on earth than this date with Jack right now.
Oh, snap. Wow, the Bachelor alumni nation is weighing in. That's always rough.
It was creepy. It was awkward. It was like cringeworthy television.
I think she sent him home at the right time. It would have been weird if she kept him any longer.
I would not want Jack as my lawyer, so
exactly.
let alone my boyfriend.
But there was another kind of cringeworthy, awkward date, and that was last night. Will, I mean, what happened,
was shocked.
Will?
I was shocked. I really thought Will would be in the top 4.
Well, he's such a level-headed guy, and he seemed to, like, whenever they would interact, he was like the adult in the room of a lot of the bachelors. He had good things to say, but when you see the 2 of them together, he doesn't look at her, he does not touch her, he really just tries to play it too cool.
It's zero chemistry.
Yeah, we have one tweet from Sherry Hallmark Kirk. She was one viewer, and I think her tweet really covered all the bases on the Will date. All right, Sherry Hallmark Kirk said, is Will boring or just awkward? Or just not that into her?
That's incredible.
Well, you know, he did mention that he only dates white girls.
Which was a weird thing, by the way.
That was an odd statement.
She said, and that wasn't the answer to her question. She goes, what do you like in a woman? He goes, I've only dated white girls.
Right.
And then she goes, what's a hallmark of your relationships? Physical passion, physical
Is there
intimacy.
any physical intimacy on this castle here? He's like a good 8 inches away from her.
Bro, you're not making her feel special if all you're doing is talking about your other relationships.
Well, you know what? One viewer had a theory on why it might have been a little bit uncomfortable for Will. Jill said maybe the film crew that follows them constantly makes Will uncomfortable.
I mean, it is the situation itself. It's an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
Some guys can't adapt to having cameras on them at all times. They don't know what to do. So
it's true, but she also said by now we should be past whatever sort of hurdles you had week 1 or week 2.
Yeah, you shouldn't be nervous anymore.
And for her, that means if you're going to get to know me, you're going to get to know me with 4 or 5 cameramen around. So
the viewers seem pretty all thinking on the same page that everyone likes Will, but they just don't think they meshed. Which was shocking because Rachel said too, going into the date, she thought it would go a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, it was both dates in general were pretty awkward. And I mean, I foresaw that she would be sending both of them home as soon as they started.
But Jax was the worst.
Jax,
clearly.
100%. Jax won as the worst one.
Okay, so those were the worst dates. We will take a look now at the best dates. And Emily, we'll check back in with you in just a minute. But I want to go to the best dates. And let's go to Joy Marie, our correspondent out in the field, talking to people who've just only recently started watching The Bachelorette. And Joy Marie, by the way, how are you feeling about a 2-night event, back-to-back batches?
4 hours of Bachelorette in 1 week. How did you feel about that?
Honestly, I felt it was a lot of Bachelorette. I don't know about you, but I cannot take 4 hours of The Bachelorette. It was a lot. I mean, even my dog said, "Girl, stop watching the screen. Take me for a walk." It was a lot. But I will say I was very entertained the whole way through, so at least we have that. I'm so glad that you guys were talking about Will's date, because for me, that was one of those dates that it was so cringeworthy. I had to even look away from the camera screen. And he was a part of my top 4. I thought he was going to make it, so I'm really sad to see him go. What did you think about, Kim? What did you think about Will's date?
I think Will's date was extremely dry. It was like dead air, almost. Like, you had to be serious. You couldn't be serious.
No.
He just was so eloquent and so, it seemed like he had more
Sure of
substance
himself.
when he was with the guys, and then when he got with Rachel, he just shut down and he had nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to blame it on nerves, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel that, Will got caught up in the lights. Maybe there were a lot of cameras around and people following them, and he just felt like this is way too much. But it's funny because when you contrast his date with Eric's date,
Yes.
who I don't like, just gonna put that out
Yes.
there. I don't think he's the one for her, but she seemed to I mean, the date was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to go on that date.
I wanted to go on that date as
Yeah.
well. And so, from our previous weeks, we talked about Eric. We said that he seems a little emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
But that date was amazing.
Yeah.
I want to go to Copenhagen.
Yes, I
So,
want to go to Copenhagen.
yes.
I want to sit in an outdoor hot tub.
Yes.
I want to do
I wanna
everything.
go on the rides, the amusement park, everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there was just a strong contrast between the two, because the guy who was so sure of himself had the whack date, and then the guy who wasn't too sure of himself had the amazing date.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy for Eric. I'm happy that he finally got his time and he utilized it the way
did.
he was supposed to.
He really did. And I thought it was interesting because in weeks prior, you did say that Eric looks like he has mommy issues, and I
Yes.
didn't see it.
Yes.
But then he copped to it, and I thought it was very emotional, and I felt bad for him. I thought it was great that he opened himself up to that. What did you think about that being right? I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can tell when somebody needs a hug, right? But I just feel like that was very big of him to kind of not only admit it and speak it out, but that's a very strong thing when you can identify what's causing you to have certain behaviors. I think it was very
Right.
adult. It was the most mature statement I think I've seen on the whole show thus far.
Especially from him.
Especially from him. And I think that, he might have he's a work in progress, but it's always easier to have that progress when you know what you're working on. So
Right.
I wish him well.
Yes, I do too. So who do you think now is going to win Rachel's heart? I mean, my favorites are gone. Diggy,
My favorite.
Will. Who do you think is kind of
You're
gonna win it?
not going to like this,
I probably won't.
but I feel like I watched Eric and Rachel fall in love on that date. I mean, it's just something about the way they were looking at each other, the way they were giggling, the way they were. Don't look at me.
I know. I don't like Eric.
I see it. And I think that Eric if he doesn't win, he's going to be the top 3 or top 2.
Well, I completely disagree with Kimberly, and I honestly think that it's going to be Peter's game, Brian's game, Dean's game. I don't know about you guys in the studio, but that is my top 4 or top 3 now since Will is out.
Right, and that same thing happened with me. Is my top 4 turned into my top 3 because Anthony went home. So I mean, we all had to, on Bachelorette Fantasy, if you play the Bachelorette Fantasy game, we all had to pick our top 4 guys last Monday. So this was prior to episodes 5 and 6. And you can see here we have Emily's picks, Brad's picks, Joy Marie's picks, my picks. So, I mean, it looks like Brad
No, our graphics department has just been really generous to me so far.
Josiah.
So I had Josiah, who I thought was a shocker when he went home.
I did too.
Especially since she kept around boring Adam and who
boring
is Matt.
Exactly.
And then Alex went home in what I thought was a surprise.
I thought, and she was emotional over that as well. I mean, you could really tell she was upset sending him home. And, Anthony, again, I thought Anthony was a really nice guy. I thought they had a great one-on-one date. I thought he was going to get a little bit further, at least further than Matt and Adam.
Well, this is the thing, is she seems to not like the stoic guys. She seems to not want the guys who don't say much, but then yet she keeps around people like Matt. I don't know. Emily, let's bring you back in, because I'm just looking at your picks here, and you're the only one who doesn't have Peter winning.
Yes,
you have Brian
I'm the
winning.
only one who has Brian winning, and I stand by this, you guys. So my theory is, I think Peter will be in second place, but I think Peter's going to be the next Bachelor, because when I'm checking Twitter after these episodes, everyone is in love with Peter. And so I feel like the season is grooming him to be the next Bachelor. And Rachel really likes Brian. You can tell. I mean, she admitted on the date this week that she was kind of looking to sabotage that relationship. She thought it might be too good to be true. She told him she was concerned that they live in different states. I mean, she's really thinking it through. She likes him.
And, he was the first to tell her that he's falling in love with her.
You got the
That
first impression
always
rose,
gives you
which
a
is
leg
a
up.
traditional indicator.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So, I mean, they can't keep their hands off of each other.
I was going to say, ladies of Bachelor Nation, let me know, however, Twitter, if you like having your face just swallowed whole, then I guess Brian is your guy, because, their kissing still, it weirds me out. I said it after week
when
one.
When they were propelling down that thing, he went in for the kiss. When they got to the ground,
Brian's
Rachel...
makeout
I think
sessions
those
weird me
kisses
out.
weird everybody out, but I mean, all that matters is that Brian's into it, Rachel's into it, so...
I mean, I think Brian's great. I think Peter's great. I think we can all agree, all four of us, that Brian and Peter are going to make it in those top 2 slots. So I think they really kind of nailed those down.
I will say Joy Marie had 2 pieces of sacrilege there. She said she had too much Bachelorettes and that she didn't like Eric. And Joy Marie, I'm thinking that Eric really is racing up that leaderboard. And I think he made a conscious decision to actually be fun and spontaneous and spunky for once.
I'm adding Eric to my top 4, Joy Marie. Sorry about that. But thanks again for our fresh take.
I'm sorry, but Eric is still... No. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joy Marie.
All right, well, that will do it for us actually, we should actually get into...
we have some forecasts to do, Brad.
We got some
forecasts. We got some
No Way
Rosé.
Like she was ready to go, but I'm not ready.
No, we need some No Way Rosé. So for No Way Rosé, I got to do Matt and Adam. I mean, I got to do Matt and Adam.
No brainer. I mean,
who are they? Why are they still there?
I still have yet to see the footage in which Rachel meets these people and shows any sign of emotion.
Doesn't Adam have a doll? Isn't he like?
The doll is way more interesting than he is at this point.
Exactly.
Adam Jr. keeps peeking through those windows. I'm like, that's a reason to keep you around, and that's really it.
I mean, they got to go. Like we said, our top 4, I think, next week will be Eric, Dean, Brian, and Peter.
Yeah, when Josiah said, if she doesn't pick me, something's wrong with her head, I mean, that is the moment that you lost America, Josiah. I'm sorry. But he was also right.
He was right. I agreed. Everything he said, I mean, he was obviously overconfident, but everything he said, I was like, yes.
When you pick Adam and Matt, I'm sorry. Something's wrong. That's not smart.
I mean, I thought it was just crazy.
What did we think looking ahead? Let's get into promo power
So
right now.
that was an interesting promo. You know, the producers, they always make the promo look a little bit more dramatic than it really is, like Kenny bleeding, obviously not from Lee's punch, but from a game. But, this week it looks like Rachel kind of breaks down. She's been very emotional this entire season.
We've seen it more and more.
More and more. You see her emotions rising and rising more and more. I think she's getting nervous. I think she's getting cold feet. I think she's never been in a situation like this where she really doesn't have full control. The lawyer part of her comes out, I think. And, she's just kind of starting to break down. She's wondering, is this going to really work for me? So I think she starts putting walls up next week. You see Peter saying that, I think I made her cry. You see Dean almost yelling at her saying, you need to open up. I think she's putting walls up.
Which would be an interesting thing to see how Dean will react to her. Also, Eric making a big deal out of race throughout the show, saying, and now that he is the only African-American cast member besides Rachel,
left, right.
It'll be really interesting to see how each of these one-on-one relationships play out as we approach hometowns.
Right, so hometowns are coming. We think they're going to be great. Like we said, I think we know our top 4. Goodbye, Matt and Adam. We're sorry. but very, very exciting. So next episode is when we find out our top 4. Rachel's Journey to Love is getting closer and closer.
All right, who is in, who is out? We will be back next week. That is one thing we know for sure. That smell. I'm Brad. This is Bachelor Forecast.
We'll see you next time.